Alright, so here we go with game number 2 of the Shannon Carter Sidekick team, this best of 3 series that I played against my opponent who's running a dragon team. I went ahead and went first, and I paid a shield to move over a die from my bag, and also fielded a Sidekick. My opponent here is rolling and re-rolling. He ends up with 2 bolts, a shield, and a Sidekick of his own. So those bolts help him out. He can Red Dragon Global, which is going to deal me 1 damage, and it looks like he's going to buy a big entrance. And then he can go ahead and resurrect with that shield. That's the only real shield value that he can get because his team is really mostly made up of bolts. I PXG over 2 dice more to make 3, and then I roll everything from my bag. End up with a lot of shields, which I can actually use because Alfred and Aunt May are both shield characters. But before I do that, I go ahead and pay a bolt to Red Dragon Global, and pay 1 more bolt to buy a big entrance, put that in the bag. So I have 2 shields. Question is, do I want an Alfred or an Aunt May? And the choice there is easy because Alfred has that really great ability where if he gets dealt damage enough to KO him, you can roll a die from your used. And if it comes up energy, he comes back out onto the field in his level 1 position. I have 3 masks here that are allowing me to move over 6 Sidekick dice to re-roll next turn, which is very, very good. He ends up pulling and rolling the big entrance. That was the only 4. Those are the only 4 dice that were still in his bag. He re-rolls these 2 shields. Doesn't really need the shields, as I mentioned before. And that gives him a second Sidekick. 3 masks total if you count those question marks, but he has big entrance here, so he can buy 1 small thing, unless he does what he's doing here, which is paying a bolt and KOing a character to buy a half dragon by paying that mask. So he goes ahead and moves over, or I go ahead and move over a ton of dice, excuse me, and he goes ahead and ends his turn, not attacking. I pick up everything that I have, I give it a good shake, and I go ahead and roll it. End up with a couple of shields, a couple of Sidekick characters. Those are good to have, but if I re-roll and get a big entrance, I'd rather those be energy so that I can buy a bunch of stuff and put it in my bag. And that's what happens. So I get that big entrance, I use it, field an Alfred, and then I can start buying stuff for 1 less. So I buy an Alfred for 1 shield, pop that in. I buy an Alfred for another shield, pop that in. I have a bolt that isn't going to do much good unless I KO a character and pay that bolt. The other thing I could do is Red Dragon Global and pick up Save Civilians, which is what I just did. So I paid a bolt and a mask to buy Save Civilians. And I go ahead and end my turn. I didn't have to pass priority over to him because he had nothing in the reserve pool previously. So I could have technically moved straight to the attack step if I wanted to, but I skipped over that and went ahead and passed the turn. So he ends up rolling the energy face on that big entrance. He's going to re-roll it, but it comes up again as an energy face, which is not so good because he has a high field cost character there. So he had to pay 2 energy to field that, which means that big entrance really isn't going to do much good. Technically, he could buy a bolt character for 1, like that baby dragon. He can buy for 1 because the half dragon is discounting that baby dragon by 2. And 3 minus 2 is 1. So I have 4 dice that I pulled from the bag. Add that to the rest of the dice that I had in prep. Roll all that up. I do end up getting 1 of the Alfreds. Neither of those basic actions come up, though. So I'm going to reroll those basic actions and the Alfred. Got a Sidekick, but not... I didn't get Save Civilians, and I didn't get 1 of those Alfreds. I do, however, have a big entrance, so that energy will come in handy. So I'm going to pay big entrance. I'm going to buy an Alfred, looks like. But before I do that, what am I going to do here? Calculating some energy costs, and in fact, I can actually just pay 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for a Shannon Carter, and she can go right in the bag. This is a good thing to do because I have board advantage already. There I paid 2 shields, and I bought an Aunt May and an Alfred. Pop those in the bag. Pass priority, and end my turn. Leaving myself with 2 sidekicks that are masks in my reserve pool. My opponent pulls and starts to prepare the roll. Rolling 5 dice. Excuse me, 6 dice. And one of those came up sidekick. Let's see if he wants to keep the sidekick and try to balance out the board state. Right now, my board state, I mean, I have advantage on characters, so I can certainly block a lot of attacks. He's got a much stronger 1 character than mine. So he resurrections, pulls 1 from the bag. It turns out to be the sidekick. Leaving him with 5 total energy left. What he could do is pay 3 to buy, pay 3 question marks to buy 3 baby dragons. He instead is going to KO a sidekick, pay a bolt, and then pay 3 on top of that to buy that red dragon for a discount because of the half dragon. I PXG 4 dice over, pull Shannon Carter, add those 4 PXG'd sidekicks from last turn to my hand, roll it up. Did not get Shannon Carter, so definitely going to want to re-roll both of those. Could also re-roll that bolt. Now that I've bought Shannon Carter, I don't really need the Blue Eyes global bolts anymore. I do end up landing Shannon Carter on her 4/4 side. So I only have to pay 1 to field her, and I pay 1 by spinning down my 2 shield side. And I field the other side, or the other Alfred for free. I pay 3 to buy a Falcon. So my board is looking really good. The only thing I have to worry about is that Red Dragon coming out and wiping it again, like last turn. But I do have an Alfred Pennyworth that is a 2 defense side, and that's not the one that I'm attacking with now. So I have a much bigger board advantage, and I technically could swing a ton right here. But I know that's going to force everything into the bag because they all go to used. He can only block 1 character, so do I want to have to fight to cycle those things around, or do I want to just kind of chip away? And so I decided to chip away. He let that 3 attack character go through, which means it moves into my used pile. I will be able to PXG a ton of dice over. I could have swung with my sidekicks, and then as if they move to used, PXG'd those over with this next group. That might have been a good idea. And of course, he both draws and rolls the strong side of his red dragon.
Is that not how that works? Oh, it's not how that works? Okay.
So he's only going to have to pay 2 because it's on its 2 side. Only pays 2 to field. He's got the 3 there for breath weaponing when he attacks. He resurrects first. He has to pass priority from me to PXG before he attacks. So I go ahead and do so.
Priority must be passed, yes.
That's an important distinction to note because you don't want to, if for example you were bringing, or your opponent was bringing a global that can affect the board state before you move to the attack step, you don't want to telegraph that you are going to attack with X amount of characters before they get the opportunity to use those globals that could possibly change board state. I realize here, after he breath weapons and wipes my board, I realize here that I have the ability to roll a sidekick or a character from my used pile, and if it comes up energy, my Alfred comes back, and that happens.
I'll block here.
So I block the sidekick, and I have the option to block the red dragon, but I think I want to take that damage, force him to move that through the bag yet again. My Alfred comes back again after being KO'd by his sidekick. But I end up having to take a big chunk of damage there.
That's why I love the red dragon. Yep. So good.
Nevertheless, I think I still have a good handle on where my team is going. Just because I already have Shannon out there. And I already have the ability to take punches. I can't take too many more breath weapons and swings, though, so I need to make sure that I put something together in these next few turns that allows me an opportunity to win.
Reroll it all. Horrible. No good. Very bad. This.
And that is coming soon if I can pull out and then roll that falcon.
So we started playing this.
Because all I need are a few more sidekicks to be able to force them unblockable with falcon and then deal lethal damage to him.
We changed teams, and now he's playing a sidekick team.
So I have a lot of energy here. Gonna pay a bolt to re-roll with parallax those 2 dice. Didn't end up happening, so I'm gonna pay a fist to re-roll with those 2 characters, those 2 dice. Didn't end up happening, so I'm gonna pay a mask. Try to re-roll those sidekicks, or excuse me, those dice, and I do get the Alfred to land. I still don't get the save civilians to land. The only really good thing about that save civilians right now, because it's not going to help with reducing fielding cost, but it would help with pulling things out of that bag, so getting to that falcon a little sooner. Nevertheless, 3 energy is always welcome, or 2 energy is always welcome. So I buy another falcon with 3 energy. He PXGs 1 time. I throw another 3 attack character at him, and if he chooses to block with his half dragon, that's going to KO his half dragon. But he doesn't. He chooses to take the damage, moving him to 12. And as of right now, I have 12 damage on board. I just need a falcon.
Dude, you can't do that.
But he pulls the red dragon right out of his bag. See if he rolls it. Oh, and it comes up right away. And not only does it come up, but I think that's its strongest face. So he's got the energy to field it. And that comes back on its 277 face, it looks like. He's got the energy to field. He's got energy to do the breath weapon as well. He forgets he has to pass priority to me before he can go and do that. So I'll PXG all my 6 dice over. 6 out of the 7. And the nice thing about having that sidekick in there is it allows me to reroll that sidekick for a 5 and 6 chance of my Alfreds coming back. So all of that KOs except the Aunt May is at 2 defense, so when she gets the 2 buff, it moves her to 4. So 1 Alfred comes back, the other one does not come back, so he stays in the KO area. But it allows me, it coming back, to block with it.
Dude, this is not good.
So I used to have 12 damage on board that could go through. I pulled the falcon, so I need to get a couple more sidekicks. I have a good chance of rolling that with all of those sidekicks and with a couple of characters. So I need 2 characters to pop up. I got more than enough right there. It would appear, unless I'm miscounting. Let's see. There's the falcon. He pops up. So I'm going to field those 3 sidekicks, and I get the falcon to pop up, which is going to make those unblockable. All of the rest of this that I'm doing right now is just because I'm excited, I guess. Just barely sneaking out the win here, because all I have to do is swing with that falcon, pass priority to him, swing with that falcon, and then all of those sidekick characters will go in unblocked, all with base sort of 3 damage or more. So I end up hitting him here for, it looks like I can do 15 damage. Straight to his face, thanks to the unblockable nature of Falcon's ability. So I end up winning this game right here by attacking with all of my sidekicks. All of those, as I said a couple of times, those are unblockable, so that is the game. So I end up picking game number 2 up. Game number 1, I lost after a couple of breath weapons, or 1 big breath weapon. And game number 2, I was able to dodge that breath weapon a couple of times and take him down. So this moves now to game number 3, and we will see again in the second time in a row this 3-game series goes to game number 3. We will see how it all ends. Thanks for watching.